Dear Head of the Cabinet, dear Deputy Mayor, dear participants in the EUT Plus Ideas Institute think tank, dear guests, it's a pleasure and honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the Rector of the Technical University of Sofia, Professor Ivan Krauf, on behalf of the whole Rector's body, and from me personally. As a member of the European University of Technology, the Technical University of Sofia shares the value about being a responsible university, taking care about society. Think human first is the slogan of UT+. All members of the UT+ share the ambition to work towards creating environment which is sustainable and safe for the future generations. We are aimed to build and to educate and train engineers and researchers of a new generation, engineers who take into consideration the human needs and also respect environment. Guided by that aim, the European University of Technology has established the Ideas Institute think tank in order to facilitate the dialogue between technological universities, broad society, representatives of local and central authority, and also industry. Today's event is one of the events organized by the Ideas Institute think tank, and we hope it will show that we are effectively collaborating and that all policies that are made are sound-based and they are related on scientific facts and figures. Before we proceed, I would like to introduce our guests who are present today. First of all, I would like to apologize our panelist, Minister of Environment and Water, Julian Popov. He couldn't make it because there was a Council of Ministers meeting which was prolonged. However, he supports this event and he is one of the senior fellows in the European Climate Foundations, and we hope to collaborate in future with him in all aspects of ecology and environment. I would like to introduce Ms. Karina Angelieva, Head of the Political Cabinet of Minister of Energy. I would say that she's a great friend of the Technical University, if she allows me to do that. She's former Deputy Minister of Innovation and Growth, Advisor of the Minister of Education and Science, Deputy Minister of Education and Science, Counselor, Head of Sector Education and Research in the Permanent Representation of Bulgaria to the EU. She works a lot towards the development of young researchers and young scientists and cares about all fundamental social issues that are relevant to our society. I think she can make a great contribution to the challenges of our contemporary environment. I would like also to introduce Mr. Donchu Barbalov, Deputy Mayor on Finance at Sofia Municipality. We are particularly proud as Mr. Barbalov is alumni of the Technical University of Sofia. He has a master's degree in engineering from our university. He is also member of the Board of Trustees of our university. Apart from this, he graduated from the City University of Seattle, Washington, with master's degree in finance, Master of Business Administration. I would like to introduce also Professor Noel Fitzpatrick. He is Professor of Philosophy and Dean of the Graduate School of Creative Arts and Media at TU Dublin. He is also, I would say, the creator and academic lead of the European Culture and Technology Laboratory, the so-called ECT Lab, who is one of the initiators of today's event of the University of Technology. He teaches philosophy of technology and aesthetics to postgraduates and doctoral students at Technological University of Dublin. And supervises a lot of postdoctoral and PhD students in Grand Camp in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. And I would like also to introduce Professor Georgi Todorov, who is professor at the Technical University of Sofia and director of the National Center of Excellence, Mechatronics and Clean Technologies. Actually, this is the center that hosts today's event. He is Dean of the Faculty of Industrial Technology, and his professional interests are in the 3D technologies, FEM analysis and virtual prototyping, additive 3D printing, as well as clean technologies and renewable energy, innovation and research activities. Today's event is driven by the diverse needs of our regions, to be aware of the global challenges in our times, challenges related to the climate change, diminishing resources, growing inequality, and social consequences of the digital era. More than ever, we need technology to answer these challenges, but we must also take into consideration the needs of people and to be respectful to the requirements of the environment and the world and the planet in which we live in. Before we begin, I would like to say a few words about the format of today's panel. Each one of the panelists will be given 10 minutes to present his views, to share his ideas and vision on technology, ecology, and sustainability. However, talking about this debate, we thought it will be reasonable to say what we as UT Plus, European University of Technology, and the Technical University of Sofia, in particular as member, are doing in terms of ecology and sustainability. I don't know how many of you are aware that we have the so-called Green Office. So I would like to invite our Green Office Manager, Associate Professor Denica Zgureva, very briefly to inform us what we are doing in that field.
Thank you, Professor Zgureva, for the introduction. Dear all, I would like to share with you a few points regarding the sustainability and its role in the European University of Technology. When we are talking about the sustainability, we associated it with some technological solutions, some scientific challenges, some social, ethical or legal issues, or some financial issues also. Often people just understand the sustainability only as achieving the 17 SDGs. But in fact, the sustainability is a kind of philosophy, is a manner of thinking or a way of living. And all of partners in the Alliance are working hard on the problems and challenges related to sustainable development. Some of them have separate structures that are responsible for these activities, others no. But it does not really matter, because more or less all activities are chaotic, because they are directed at specific problems, but not embracing the overall concept and ideology of sustainable development. And for better organization of working over all sustainable issues in the structure of the European University of Technology, it was created the so-called Green Office, which is situated next to the steering committee as a consultative body. And the main aims of this Green Office is to support all other structures of the EUT in integrating sustainability into their process and activities. And part of the emphasis in the activities of the Green Office is related to the development of competencies and also the provision of opportunities for the teaching, administrative staff and students to think about their own actions and their own influence over the sustainability, to develop in them necessary skills and knowledge and mindset aimed at sustainability, and also to apply all concepts of sustainable development at all levels, The main role and responsibilities of this green office in the structure of EUT is building strategies, building working networks, building partnership for implementation of activities, and also consulting, monitoring these activities to stimulate sustainable development projects, and of course to promote the sustainability of all levels of working. Briefly, also, I would like to show you what we are doing here at Techical University of Sofia. We have an official strategic document that outlines the goals and actions that we strive to implement in order to achieve maximum integration of sustainability in all of our work. 17 SDGs: electricity, thermal energy, transport, water, wastes. These are the main sectors on which we strive to have an impact to achieve the goals of sustainability. And we apply different approaches to obtain different results through technical measures, to sustainability in education and sustainability in science. For the implementation of the activities related to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Plan, the Technical University of Sofia has a separate department of sustainability, which includes also a green office, disability office, and a student sustainability office. Our rector and our vice rectors manage and support all of our works and efforts, and we are really, really thankful for them about that. And also I would like to thank to you about your attention.
Now I give the floor to who shall start? I was thinking of Karina Angelieva, but she went somewhere. Maybe okay. Professor Fitzpatrick, as a creator of all this think tank.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'd also like to formally thank our colleagues here in TU-Sofia who have been hosting us for the last few days. It's been a really warm and wonderful experience, so thank you very much. So I suppose my role and what I do is I'm a philosopher. And what philosophers do, if we take a definition of philosophy from Gilles Deleuze, what we do is we create concepts. And we reflect on things as concepts. So one of the shifts that I've noticed since the pandemic is that we are starting to think about technology in different ways. So technology as a practice. So it's a reflection on technology itself. And within the European University of Technology, I would emphasize that we have been discussing what we mean by technology in a technological university, and that is a form of philosophical practice also. Okay. So the context for my role in the European University of Technology was in February 2020 with our colleagues in Cluj-Napoca in Romania. We established the first pan-European research institute, which was called the European Culture and Technology Laboratory. And from someone who comes from the arts and humanities, you might say that's a very strange title to choose the word laboratory, but we chose the word laboratory on purpose because a laboratory enables us to put forward research in a particular way. It gives it a certain credibility within a university to call it a laboratory, basically. But the thematic of the European Culture and Technology Laboratory is the relationship between culture and technology. And I would note here this afternoon that I am not capable of speaking to you in your own idiom, in the idiom of the Bulgarian language. So we have to shift to another idiom, which is not also my idiom, which is the English language. The English language that we speak in Ireland is a particular also form of idiom. And I'll come back to that in a second. So there's a relationship between how technology evolves or co-evolves over time with its relationship to culture. And earlier on this morning we had a discussion around artificial intelligence and ethics, and that's a very good example of how technological speed is faster than our ability to incorporate into our cultural structures, legal structures, etc. So we get a tension between the evolution of technology and its relationship to culture itself. So then, if we think of the relationship between techne and logos in the term technology, we also have to take into account how there is an evolution of technology which has taken place over time. So one of the ways of thinking about the question of climate change, or the question of climate catastrophe, or another term we could use is the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is literally the impact of the anthropos on the geology of the planet. That's why it's called the Anthropocene. What we can see are two versions of history. We have one version which says that the experience of climate change began in the 1840s with the development of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, which later then translates into notions of, I suppose, the engine and the steam engine. And then the steam engine, we get industrialization, and from industrialization, we get globalization. So we can have this very simple historical narrative which points to a particular form of technological evolution which leads to climate change. The second version of the story is one which is called the Grand Acceleration, which is from the 1950s. So what we see in graphs from the 1950s onwards is an explosion of population, an explosion of industrialization, an explosion of globalization across the planet. And that's a second version of the story. However, when we come to our discussion this afternoon, the proposition that I would like to make is that we should think of other forms of technologies. So we have now all accepted that we need things like biodiversity, that biodiversity is something which is essential to the well-being of the planet. The other proposition I'd like to put forward is a form of techno-diversity. We need other forms of technology which take into account the individual local contexts of technological development. So what that means is we get a tension between universal forms of technological development. We had a discussion earlier on about, I suppose, automatic vehicles and self-driving cars as a form of universal technology. And what came up in the discussion was how difficult it is to relate those universal tendencies of technologies to local contexts, to local geographies, to local languages. So the proposition, and it's not just me, there's a group of philosophers now across the world who are using this term techno-diversity to suggest that we need to take into account the complex ontological and epistemological local context of technological development. So there's a tension within the proposition. So how can we have technological development which is taking place at a local level, which is also having an impact at a global level? So that's the tension that we see. And our role, as Lydia pointed out a moment ago, one of the missions of the European University of Technology is to take those questions and to see how can we implement them within what we're calling technological education. So how can we have responsible, ethical citizens who are developing technologies and using technologies? So that's the challenge that we have, and that's the wonderful project that we have together, which is the European University of Technology, which is across all disciplines. So just to finish, I'd like to come back to the question of the idiom for a second. It's something which is very close to my own work at the moment. What we see is that as a particular speech community, within any language, we have the capacity to create new language. And this is something which is open-ended and constantly a source of new creativity in itself. So language is something which in one way is a closed system. So when we think about computational models of language, when we think about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, it's a very particular model of language that we're looking at, which has seen itself as a closed system. However, I'd like to point to the possibility, which is the poetic possibility of new meaning, which is in the idiom itself. So the idiom is something which is a personal localization of language. I appropriate language for me and I speak that language. So it's a form of individual ecology, if you wish. And that notion of the idiom is something which I see as a way of challenging globalized tendencies of technological development. So it's trying to take into account the local context, which today is this context in Sofia in Bulgaria. So how do we take into account the local context in the overall development of technologies to respond to the global challenges? So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Angelieva to say, it was said ladies first today, so
Okay. Can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. It was very, very nice of you and of the Vice Mayor. Okay. Hello everyone, also from me. Thank you, Lydia, because the introduction was extremely kind. I felt very special. The truth is that I'm always happy to be here. I'm not for the first time in this center, and now when I came, I felt very easy to enter, to find where to go, and to see that there is life in it. Because the first time I came with Professor Tudorov, there was no one yet, and I'm happy to see that the results of investing a little bit in research and innovation in our university is giving some good results, and I see a lot of maybe not a lot of people, but I see a lot of somehow interested eyes. There is a kind of expectation in the audience, which is always good. I think at least you are not bored, which is extremely important nowadays to keep the attention on the topics of sustainability. Thank you. I'm really surprised. Usually I know everything, and I was totally shocked that the Technical University of Sofia has a green office. Wow, congratulations. It's super nice. If you allow me, I would like to talk about this also outside the university to promote this idea. My problem the last 10 years is not to use the word sustainability because it became empty word somehow. We lost the idea what is exactly in it. And I think we should put a lot of efforts to take out this word of the boring vocabulary, and as Professor Fitzpatrick explained before me, to try to give it a life through personality, society, mindset, culture, why not? I like this, although it's not a new concept, the new Bauhaus initiative, the European Union, but I think we are far away really imagining technology to culture. It's really great to have you here. You didn't mention one word, which also recently is, we're repeating it so much that it become a bit empty. And it's about education and training. I prefer to talk about research and innovation, or about energy, because this is now my new position. But we also have to make a smooth transition to my short intervention. I would just add to the key factors of understanding nowadays challenges, the education and training, because it won't work only with one nice green officer. This exercise that you have, it was also from home. We have to train and educate the parents, the society, the businesses, I will start from my end point to the beginning of what I was planning to tell you. I will start with one good example. From last summer, we worked quite hard in Trachea economic zone. This is in Plovdiv region. And we elaborated the first for Bulgaria, the so-called charter for zero net emission. More than 30 companies agree on concrete steps what to do so that to decrease the dependence on fossil fuels, to introduce smart metering, to introduce energy efficiency, to introduce also a plan in the short term future how to decrease dependence on gas, because after fuels this is another big room elephant in the room. But next to these 5 concrete, extremely important and also costly measures, I have to tell that we attach 5 other measures which are part of the so-called decarbonization strategy of our mindset towards energy efficiency. And we put biodiversity, investments in greening the surroundings. We put education and training, so that to take care about the new generation of engineers, how to work for new solutions, technologies from the point of view of materials innovations and climate change. We also put social care, because at the end of the day, another topic which we never discuss, I'm really shocked now already being in my new role in the Ministry of Energy, that we don't discuss how much energy is linked to the health of the people and the quality of life of the people from the point of view of social quality of life, but also of health. And if I have to start from the beginning of my speech, of course, I asked some colleagues to give me some materials, because I was a bit taken by surprise from Professor Todorov that I have to talk. I can talk with pleasure about everything concerning research and innovation, but to go deep into the new Energy Act, which we published for public consultation, and we produce a hurricane of comments the last month. I don't want to take to have this debate with you now. But of course, I asked my colleagues for some concrete details what we do in the Ministry of Energy. It's not little. What have been planned and put already in the so-called integrated energy and climate plan, basically being part of the EU, being a member state, we have also responsibilities, and this is very good. So basically the integrated platform climate and energy is our strategy, what we want to do and how we want to reach decarbonization till 2050. What was not done and achieved last years was a political consensus, how quickly we should move, how much investments we should put and where to put them. Next to this lack of political consensus and delays, I'm able to afford to say this, we didn't prioritize and we didn't make a deep analysis how much resources, human resources we will need, and skills next to it. Therefore, this is giving nowadays a big of deficiencies. Not that Bulgaria is on another road from the other member states. We are just moving with a lot of barriers. You know how the other day I saw the athletics. This running with the hinders in front of you. So the road is clear, but we always choose a bit the difficult way, and we are very much delayed, which cause also very big delays in harvesting the research results and innovation technologies from our universities and research centers and their application into practice. So to cut the long story short, It's not new that the biggest goal is to decrease the dependence on fossil fuels. This is clear. Next week we will have the Consultative Council on the Green Deal, where we will present the scenario, how we will go out of this dependence. Of course, this will cost a lot of serious measures towards the people. This is a very serious challenge, especially the people in these dependent regions in Bulgaria, involved in mining and in coal power plants. I know that the Technical University developed already 3 years ago a quite comprehensive idea, but now we have to do it. This is the point. It could be more, how to say, more painless. Now we have to do it very quickly and with very serious measures, because no more delays can be done. In fact, from next year we have also to go in a transition period towards the liberalization of the energy market, which will boost a lot innovations in the energy sector, meaning it will allow all of us to decide what we want, how we want to work, if we want to work in energy communities, how to work for our energy efficiency, how to plan our resources. But there will be many people that won't be able to do this. There is a huge energy poverty in Bulgaria. We don't know still the numbers, but this is also an element we should take care. And I put also, because I don't want to replicate all your words, I agree, and also with the speech of our green officer, Denica. So the point is that the key factors that are moving the sector of energy are, of course, the climate change, which have to be seen from all its aspects, including biodiversity. Next to it, I put that it's the resources. It's basically called energy security, but it's also linked to the resources we have on the planet. And to the third place, nothing surprising, of course, I put the innovation. No surprise here, because without unlocking the potential of innovation and technologies, basically, we can't move quickly to realize the decarbonization strategy. We have quickly to find new technologies and innovations in order to realize new infrastructure, for example, for hydrogen, to realizing new fuel stations which can work with a new fuel, last but not least, to explore new critical resources for the sector. So this is the key factors. What we need this recipe to be successful and all of us to be master of our energy planning, but also master of our quality of life, will depend a lot of the understanding of the digitalization, as you start with your speech, because this is extremely important, digitalization and data. Second, I said already the training, and last but not least, don't forget that there is still big social, how to say, gaps in the society. We need to really to work for social inclusivity in the society. Otherwise, this will always drag us behind, and we will monitor much more crises, wars, and conflicts in the world. So I'm proud to be in this new sector, and I'm very happy, and thank you. I was invited today.
Thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Barbalov to say the viewpoint of municipality and maybe his personal viewpoint on these fundamental issues.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for the very nice introduction, and I appreciate it a lot. What is very interesting about the municipalities, and of course Sofia municipality, is that we are very close to the people. So we are local. We think locally, we try to act locally, but at the same time we are working with a very diversified group of people because as you know, our population is more than 1.2 million, so there are different groups in this huge group of people, and everybody has his own priorities, his views, and his agenda, so we have to consider what they expect from us and what we can make for them. One way to approach, and we are working on it, is to have long-term strategies for development of the city. I would like to say sustainable development, because in order to be able to make changes which are gradual changes, you cannot make very rapid changes with big groups of people. You need to have a very long-term strategy. That's why we have a strategy for the development of the city till 2050. We have a strategy for public transport till 2035, and we have different strategic long-term documents which give us the policy and where we are going to be in the years to come. At the same time, we work very well and a lot with the education sector, with the universities like the Techical University, and when we develop our documents, we try to get the knowledge of the professors, of the teachers, of the academic people who are following the latest developments, so that we incorporate the latest developments and we gradually start to move there. I can give you examples. For example, now we are introducing a low emission zone in the center of the city, which is the first one in the country. It will be very difficult. But part of our work is to educate people, to bring them in and try to convince them that this is in the long run good for them, good for the environment. So low emission zones we have to start this winter. In few years we have to limit the use of fossil fuel for heating in the city, which is also a very ambitious task, and we are working now for something which will happen in a few years, but now we are working with the help of the government to give people different alternative sources of heat, so the change is not going to be all at once, it will be gradual, and when the time comes, everybody will be more or less ready for it. So this is also very important for us, because when I saw at the beginning different topics, well, we have electricity, we have waste, we have transport, we have thermal heating, we have everything, but at the same time we have to make sure that the new ideas and the new strategies which we implement will be with the support of the people. That's why we need education, we need to explain why this is done and what are the reasons behind it, and lead the change, basically. And because I have colleagues who are working on heat zones in the city, we are making this analysis. It's another challenge because we have zones of the city which are overheating in summer. We have to try to address this issue. We're developing different green technologies, so everything is coming together through our strategic documents, but at the same time we have to consider that we are working with thousands, millions of people, so it has to be gradual, it has to come through a lot of education, and the process is very important for us. It's not only to have the nice idea, but we also have to have the right process to make it happen. For example, now we are trying to use artificial intelligence in public transport. This will be for the first time in our city, on one of the boulevards. Let's see how it helps. Maybe it's more marketing than real change, but really we want to make people acceptable to new technologies and to changes. So thank you for them being.
So whatever we do, if I can summarize what we said so far, it seems like in order to achieve the sustainability, the ecology and Green Deal aims, we need to train and educate people. We do it from various perspectives on various levels, and I think that's what unites us, and I think it's very important to have that. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Todorov as a representative of the Technical University, to say what we do in that respect. And we do not only train and educate people, we do a lot of innovations, which was another important aspect, and I think he can speak about this also.
Thank you. Thank you for the organization of such a, I think, important discussion about the future of our society, not only from technological point of view, but from ethical, from social point of view. I'm really happy to see so many international participants here in our meeting room in Center of Excellence in Mechatronics and Clean Technologies. What we try to do in context of EUT Plus initiative, we try to change, first of all, the environment. What means our educational and research environment? There is three main elements. First is infrastructure. Last years we have a chance to have 5 new projects that open opportunity to our university to upgrade the infrastructure. You see now modern, up-to-date, latest technology equipped infrastructure. Second element is expertise and skills of our professors, our researchers, and our students. This is very, very important to be in the highest level. We see in the cooperation with our 7 partners in European Technological University, that cooperation gave you new opportunities and new point of vision about the expertise and the importance of expertise, how we have to focus our skills and expertise, and this is one of the critical elements. And third one that is not so visible but is important too is a culture environment that we have to upgrade, starting to think from local aspects. As Mr. Barbalov said, we have a lot of problems in Sofia, but I believe in all other cities, in our partners and all the Europe, the problems more or less are the same. And culture that we have to create is global thinking and local work, but the global thinking is very important even from point of view that European Union is not the leading society in many aspects. We have leaders in some aspects, but in other aspects we are losing the leading positions. We have to compensate, not only in artificial intelligence, but in many other aspects. We have to put a lot of efforts, even our new generation engineers, new generation experts. And these 3 components will open opportunities to change the paradigm of our higher educational system. The paradigm of the educational system is now in transition like the energy sector, but not so visible. We have to change the system of educational manner of training the students from, this is actually important not only for our university or for our partners universities in the Europe. All the world works in the same direction. Different acceleration and different forces involved, but it's important to change the educational system from factology-based, as was many years ago, 200-300 years ago, when the information was not so reachable. Nowadays, the information is around us. How to use this knowledge, how to use the information, this is the new paradigm of our educational system. And the countries that have such an opportunity, that have a critical mass of thinking people in that direction is very, very important. I think that we have to change our models and philosophy of the training process from factology-based to learning by doing. Because the important aspect of sustainability is to create a new generation of experts and engineers that can be very flexible and very adaptive in the fast changeable environment around us. And to be competitive in the world industrial or social environment, to not lose the aspects focus like artificial intelligence, like hydrogen economy or other important things that now we have to face. And this change is very difficult. We find that this is difficult, and the main difficulties comes not from the objectives, comes from people. We have to change, first of all, our professors. And this is the big challenge in front of us, and I believe that EUT environment, our partners, and such meetings will help definitely to understand that we have to have transition. What are the indicators of such a problematics? Decreasing the number of people that like to and wants to study high educational system. They goes directly to the business. I have a discussion in that point in MIT in Boston 2 years ago, and one professor said, our big enemy is the business. We're talking that all our work is in the interest of business. This is true, but opposite is true again, because the business wants to take the talents directly from high schools and open short and very fast track to the big and good career, instead of the 5 or 6 years spent in the universities. This is the big challenge against the higher educational system. And we have to overjump this challenge, changing the system in the universities. And I believe that initiatives are like EUT and federation that we are preparing will be really helpful in this direction. And this is the new aspect of sustainability of higher educational system, because we are losing. I visit together with our rector Germany in 2 universities, and they decreasing the number of candidates for engineering. Germany, first industrial force in Europe, even in the world. In the Bulgaria is the same situation. Many young people prefer to choose something different or to choose different career track, not directly.
If you allow me, I would like to ask a provocative question. Yeah. And we, as European University of Technology, we claim that we have the goal to create the future European engineers that have common diploma and that are trained to realize their knowledge all over Europe. In terms of the 3 aspects that are based on which today's discussion is based: technology, ecology, and sustainability. How do you think will look the future engineer, the engineer of new generation, the engineer of EUT? Here we have a lot of PhD students in the audience. Maybe they have questions and view also, so they can express their view, how they do look like, how do they want to look like as European engineers. But this is the challenging question to both professors and maybe our guests.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, so first of all, I'm not an engineer, and actually, so I think there's a way of rethinking this a little bit, and let me explain what I mean. It's like perhaps some of the difficulty is coming from the way in which engineering education has been delivered in the past. And one of the things that we've been working on very recently with the EthiCo project and what we've been doing here over the last few days is looking at changing the education model for teachers themselves. So we have developed a series of workshops where we are hoping to engage professors in thinking through questions of ethics and ecology in their own teaching practices and in the disciplines that they teach. So my response is that, you know, I come from the Faculty of Arts and Humanities in TU Dublin, which is the biggest faculty in TU Dublin, but yet what we need are processes of transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary engagement across. Because as we saw just before this discussion, we had a discussion around what are called wicked problems or super wicked problems. So wicked problems are problems which are outside of particular disciplines, where we need multiple disciplines to come together to actually conceptualize what the problem is. So my response, Lydia, is maybe what we are doing in the European University of Technology is thinking about technologists in a different way. Technologists who are people who are not just coming from a solution-based engineering background, but are also engaging in other forms of disciplinary practices. And because Professor George Todorov mentioned MIT, MIT is often given as an example. Because in MIT, you do get this transdisciplinarity embedded within the engineering faculty itself. One of the best exhibitions of photography I've seen was in the engineering department in MIT, within the department itself. So that's an example of how you can engage across disciplines, and maybe that's the query, is to say that this form of technological, ethical, European, responsible citizenship comes from posing the question slightly differently and engaging across disciplines.
Thank you. Any other views on that topic, or maybe questions from the audience? Or from our guests? What, I don't know if you have a view on...
Yeah, always. I said there are two professors to comment, so I thought Professor Todorov will comment, but okay. I like the question. It's really provocative, and it's not fair probably to the half of the audience here who are future engineers, and they have already their ideas. But recently I commented in the European University Alliance. We had a meeting about the future of universities, and I have to tell you, maybe now I'll shock some people, that I said maybe we should go back to the basics. When you're talking about the question how we work the future EU engineers. Back to the basics means that we have to remind ourselves something that we lost last years, and I think there was a reference in the words of Professor Todorov in this. Somehow we forgot what is the real mission of the university and the word university. In Bulgaria we use higher education. I was even criticized in my former position that I'm not spelling and using the right terminology. It's not university, it's a higher education. Okay, fine, but university has another connotation, that in the university you enter and you receive a knowledge, a deep knowledge about the surroundings, about the sense of life, if you want, about our responsibility in the society, and about common shared values. Because I think we are losing this. I know that several universities already, including your consortium, are working on this. I've read several pilot bachelors and masters, mainly in Western Europe, introducing philosophy, ethics, different disciplines within the engineering. Vice versa, I was thinking, I graduate history. And they're trying, we should introduce some tech and engineering in the history, which end up at the end something like how the historians should do PowerPoint presentation. It's ridiculous, no? On the opposite, the historians that should really remember and keep the memory and to present to the current generation what happened in the past, they should have really the understanding how the engineer's mindset is ticking, and then we very much rely on how we cultivate and prepare the engineers to build and to take care about our society. There are a lot of provocative ideas on this topic. Very often we basically, nowadays it's easy, and we criticize, even we blame the engineers for what is happening, because the engineers take about the progress of research and innovation and technology. They care to materialize their innovation, and very often the politicians who do not dare to take the responsibility, for example, of huge penetration of technologies, GDPR matters, artificial intelligence, they put the blame on the engineers, but basically it's a political and society matter. So the future EU engineer will be a product of the reformed higher education system, as Professor Todorov said. This will be extremely intelligent like nowadays people, but a little bit more aware of what is the real challenges of today, because we are on the verge of really global security and human crisis. This is how I imagine. Nothing new, but more of the good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. I personally believe a lot in lifelong education, and I think engineers, like anybody else who is graduating now, should be ready to study throughout his life in different subjects, maybe change the way he's working now 10 years ahead, because life is so dynamic. It is not like years ago you graduate, you know everything and nothing changes. Now life is just starting once you graduate. So you should be ready to accept change, be ready to change yourself, but at the same time, as Mr. Angelieva mentioned, the moral values are very important, because whatever you do, you should keep your values intact and adapt to the new technologies, new challenges, because life is too dynamic now and we should be ready for anything, but we should keep focus on our values and behave for the good, let's say, for the common good, which is kind of cliche, but I think.
Thank you for the commentary. I think it's, you yourself are also a very good example, because you have a quite multidisciplinary education yourself, so thanks. Now I would like to introduce our sixth panelist. That's Professor Georgi Angelov, Deputy Minister of Innovation and Growth. He is also a colleague of ours. He was chair of the Department of Microelectronics, chairman of the managing board of the cluster of Microelectronics in Industrial Electric Systems, head of Mino Lab at Sofia Tech Park, and Director of Information and Public Relations at the Technical University of Sofia. I believe he has a good reason to be delayed, because now we are living in turbulent times, so maybe some meetings, but Professor Angelov, would you like to say a few words on the topic, share your views about technologies, ecology and sustainability? And we've been commenting recently what the engineer of future in respect to this should look like. So it's everything's, now it works. So
okay, thank you for the introduction. In fact, we are all colleagues, we know each other. So it's good that with Ms. Karina Angelieva is kind of successors, because she was previously Deputy Minister of Innovation and Growth. So it's good that our university is the, how to say, in the center of gravity of the expertise. I will keep restrained from repeating one and the same obvious thing. So what is fact is that in these challenges and priorities are not only part of goodwill and understanding, but also they are part of real activities that are achieved through specific procedures and calls for procedures in the currently ongoing operational programs for competitiveness, for research and innovation, and so on. I refer to the calls for implementation and development of innovations. These are two separate calls. And also for circular economy. This is part of the National Resilience and Recovery Plan. And also for green transition and so on. But this means that all these priorities have some real instruments that allow project realization and some results. So from our new position, because I'm 2 months and a half, almost 2 months and a half now in my new capacity, I can assure that this is also priority and part of the priorities of the current government, and that we will push forward for realizing these priorities in practice. And I'm also giving to the government the good experience originating from the EUT, because not many people, not only in Bulgaria but across Europe, are aware of this alliance and the possibilities that it opens. So it's good that our university is part of this, how to say, enabler of future achievements.
I think it's a good combination because Professor Angelov, Minister Angelov, is aware and he was fully involved in the UT Plus initiative. So he's aware about the problems of having the joint diploma and building the engineers of the future. So he's very much into this debate and he can contribute to solve the problems on another level. And as I said in the beginning of today's discussion, we are happy that actually Technical University has a very good dialogue with both local and central governance, with policymakers, and we keep that hot collaboration also with industry. Now I would like to ask some of the students, maybe it will be good to hear your opinions. You'll manage now to listen to professors, ministers, municipality. Yeah, if you please, can you please come here because of the, we are streaming today's event and for the sound purposes, this is our organization, so the floor, the tribune is yours. Can you please introduce you just?
I'm small. I am Santiago Perez, and I'm coming from France. I work in France. And it's just one of the kind of questions that we repeat in our engineering classes in Troyes is about the question of what kind of engineer do we want to have in the future. And I always say, I would like engineers that actually ask the right questions. So my question to the panel would be, according to your position and your background and the work that you're doing, what do you think would be the right question for engineers to ask? Thank you.
I was going to make maybe an idiomatic response to that, or an idiotic response to it, and say, what's the meaning of life? But I won't. That's the fundamental question. Maybe, but I think, in all seriousness, it's about students, and I think actually it was Professor Todorov who used the term factology, which I think is a really interesting term to think about for a second. So we have students who now need to have more analytical skills because the information is available on the touch of a button on a smartphone immediately, and our attention, we are constantly called upon now to attend in a particular way. The number of cameras that are here, the smartphones that are around us, we're constantly being called to attend in a particular way. And maybe the question that the students could ask is how to best do that. And we had a very interesting discussion yesterday around the different forms of ethical frameworks in philosophy that we can look at. And one of them, which goes back to Aristotle, is to live the good life. So the fundamental question for somebody who is undertaking an education, and I use the term education, not training, an education in engineering, is that question around their responsibility. How to live their best life in terms of how they engage with technological development. So I don't know if I'm trying to close off without going too far, if you see what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? It's a very tough question.
Give the floor to Professor.
He's always prepared for all questions.
Thank you. I think that to be an engineer first means to be creative, to like challenges, to like to see what you're doing and effects of your work to environment, to the society, to the business. And one of the critical aspects of the engineering science and the engineers is to be adaptive, to be flexible, and to be responsible. Together, these three elements means to be competitive, because in the world running the fight between the different companies, different technologies, and there is the losers and winners. To provide all these our initiatives, we have to have what? We have to have resources. Without resources, no chance to make a politics. And from where comes resources? From added value. Engineers adding value to the society. To add value, this is the critical point. To add value means to be competitive. Because in opposite way, we will lose the markets, we will lose the positions, we will lose the resources finally, and without resources, we will lose the politics. That is, to be competitive, to be adaptive, to be flexible, to be experts, and to like a challenge. That is.
So, dear colleagues, dear friends, do you have any other tough questions? Are there questions from the stream or no?
Could I go back to a point?
Yes.
Okay. So I think at the very beginning you mentioned the term sustainability and the kind of the problems of the term sustainability itself. And I think one of the interesting ways to change that is to use the word ecology, because we can have ecology at different levels. You can have an ecology of the self. That's also an ecology of an ecosystem of how the self develops. Again, I'd point to the use of information technologies and smartphones also. There's a question of how that impacts the self too. Our ability to attend, our ability to give attention is something which is becoming rare because of the way in which technologies capture our attentions for a particular way. And then we have an ecological relationship with the other person. So it's an ecology of the self, an ecology of the other, how I relate to the people around me in the collective. And then the third level is the term ecology, which is the ecology of the planet. So I think that's why the term ecology sometimes can better capture some of the problematics that we're raising rather than sustainability. So it's just a point I'd like to make.
And now this provokes another question of mine. We talk about the future engineers, but and we've raised some issues which are fundamental to our contemporary society. But through solving these issues, we built the so-called ecosystem. So, how do you see the ecosystem, and maybe what do we need to do in terms of providing the suitable ecosystem for the future generations, for our students, for the future citizens of Europe, both on local level and maybe on European level. We have representatives from 7 different countries. We have people from France, Germany, Ireland, Bulgaria, Romania, Cyprus, Latvia. So we have a broad audience, European citizens audience, so maybe it will be interesting to hear the view from these different countries on European level. And we also shared our problems and our view on a national Bulgarian level. So what can we do to build the best ecosystem, the best environment, which will help the future of Europe, which will help achieve the values that we claim we want, that the values that unite us as Europeans, and in a more narrow aspect as members of EUT+, because actually on many levels we said the European University of Technology is a smaller ecosystem part of the bigger ecosystem called European Union. And actually we can be used as a test bed, and that's what we are doing, and that's why I'm here, to build the suitable environment and ecosystem for the future generation of researchers and engineers and future citizens of Europe. There's a view from, can you please come here, because we need the mic for the colleagues that are online. We're streaming this live, and sorry, this was the best organization we can provide. Please first introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Vladislav Galpek. I'm working at the Hochschule Darmstadt, so one of the partners of the Youth Plus project. And I would like to say, being a PhD student, so not a student, so to speak, strictly speaking anymore, whenever well, to start with, I was very lucky to have seen different societies. So I was born in one country, I've lived in another one, and I'm working in yet another one. And two of those belong to the European Union. And so I really believe in the European vision. But I've observed one of the, so to speak, when we speak about future, we always speak about the present people, especially the youth, as if they are the past of the future. But they exist already in the present. And especially when we talk about expertise, which sometimes come from spending a lot of time, and so also with age and studies, but we also talk about creativity and innovation. And this sometimes is done by also that naive ignorance of who is not yet an expert. And where these two things meet, I believe, is in the universities and in the youth. So whenever at the European level, one of the big things I think we should really put in any speech, political, in university level, is really listen and put a lot of attention to the young people. Especially because trends I've seen, for example, coming from Italy, also in Germany, the more a society grows, the older it gets as well. And there is sometimes a risk that there are more voices coming from the older generation, and this can maybe put a cloud on the voices of the youth that I believe actually are the answer to their own future sometimes. And so yeah, would be my comment, to really listen to the youth at any level and at any age, because they're not the future, they are the present as well. So,
any more comments? From, yes, okay.
It was very nice, your intervention. I just wonder how to really listen to my kids in their teenage years. They just don't want to say anything. Anyhow, as I said, really we are coming back to basics. You are absolutely right that we have to hear your voice. We have to hear very different voices, in fact, in the society. And as I said before, Deputy Minister Angelov, I mean, it's very difficult for me, Joe, to join us. I was saying that it's really extremely important in this, Lydia, in this very dynamic ecosystem we are living, to have something to hold on. That's why I'm saying to go back to the basics. And the basics for me is again to put the human being in the center of this ecosystem. It's really difficult to talk after the other professor. He said something very important. What is the most important? We should go back to this system is to give freedom to young people, to do creativity, to do crazy things, to study a lot, and to provide them the resources to study a lot. And to us, 50 years, we start to make all kinds of important policies and measures in the higher education, assessments, project-based projects coming from the business, so that to train the engineers to be close to industry and so on and so forth. But basically nowadays, the engineers, our hope this tangible stick that we have to hold on to find solutions to quite pertinent societal challenges, such as energy, for example, which is not exactly stemming up from the industry. So I don't think we should block and close ourselves, but the engineers and this education should be open and should put indeed in the middle of its focus the human being. But also we need to keep the big picture, and this is the most challenging discussion that I do believe, and I wish in your European University of Technology to continue, because the difference with 200, 300 years ago, there is, as I said, in my personal opinion, historian, there are not many differences, but the real differences is the data, the access to information, the virtual world, how we access, and this makes really the things quite more challenging and super interesting. So I want to say that the elder generation is not correct, saying we saw everything, you know, we are coming from there where we are going. It's absolutely not fair, because every generation should go through its own road, maybe to the same, but the experience on the way, the challenges on the way, and the solutions will be different. And here I conclude, being now with the chapeau of the energy, that energy is going back to back up with climate. Thank you for the word ecology. Of course, it's again back to the basic. We are forgetting the simple things. From here onwards, really the difference is that we already know that the resources has an end. Okay, there is space, of course, there is other planets, but it's quite arrogant to think like this, that we are here only to conquer other planets and to exhaust also their resources. So I think the difference from now onwards, and the huge challenge for the engineers, I will ask them indeed use what are the plans, how we will save our planet Earth. Maybe it's a bit cliche also, but why not? I like sometimes cliches. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Angelieva. And any comments? There was a comment from the audience on this. It's very, very active.
No, it's just like in terms of like things that I think we should keep doing, because we're doing a lot of things, or good things. I think one example of what I would be asking, like public sector, for example, and private sector as well, and universities, is opening safe spaces as we have with the ECT lab, for example, where those are spaces that are funded and that sustain ideas, and they allow us as well to be wrong. They allow us to experiment, and that allows us to kind of go beyond what society needs at the moment, and we can think about the things that can come in the future. So, you know, just kind of asking about like what can we do, I think, is funding more spaces, safe spaces like the ECT lab, where we can actually discuss these things and have these sorts of conferences and learn, and then, you know, transform society to something that could be more adaptive. So there you go. Thank you.
For a comment, the Deputy Minister on Innovation and Growth, how Ministry supports such, now from the
more funding. Give us more funding.
From the other perspective, maybe not only, the mics are on and they're strong enough, so it's and about the innovations in the field of ecology. So your apologies. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Okay, we have, the good thing is that in Bulgaria we already have such a ministry, and that introduces instruments for realization. This is the most important, because nobody is doubting about the importance. So really there are some instruments that are really applicable. I mentioned previously the goals within the operational programs, but also there are some instruments that are structured nationally. These are the funding instruments under the head of the so-called fund of funds, the fund manager of financial instruments in Bulgaria, where a lot of funding is provided at different stages of company growing, from startups, seed-ups, grow-ups, and so on. Also now is currently underway the Technology Transfer Fund, which is very important for pushing the innovations and the implementation of innovations. This is two-stage process. One, we have 60 million euro for structuring a technology transfer fund. This is within the fund of funds. This is the amount of money that will be used for funding initiatives. And also from the other side, there are 8 million euros for structuring a technology transfer office, which will be the facilitator, the unit that will find and stimulate and encourage potential beneficiaries for the for the technology transfer fund that originates from the fund of funds. So this is something new, and this is something that can really push the innovations, because innovations cannot happen on their own. Okay, so and here the universities are key, and I'm happy that I have now the possibilities to see the picture from the other side, that now not only me personally, but also colleagues and ministers and the Prime Minister are quite well aware and understand the importance of universities. So universities should be key when we are talking about innovations, because they are kind of the, how to say, the referee that can discriminate the real projects from the dream projects, let's say, because there are a lot of dreamers, and here the students should be aware that it's very important for them that they have strong engineering background, because this lets you make difference between what is your dream and what is achievable. So that's why the universities are key.
This is a newly created structure for our foreign guests. So the Ministry of Innovation and Growth is relatively new. It was established, yes, less than 2 years, with the specific purpose to foster technological development and innovations in the country. And actually it's aimed also to facilitate and build the environment needed for entrepreneurship, creativity, and innovations. So do we have any more viewpoints and comments from the audience, from somebody online, from the panelists? I think it's been a long day and it's been a long discussion. I hope all of you got the answers they were looking for, or at least got the right direction towards where to direct their future dreams, vision. By the way, in this audience, I didn't introduce our guests, but many of them are actually from humanities and arts. Am I right? So not, but within the Technical University of Dublin.
Technological.
Technological. Okay, so that's very good clarification, because we are somewhat technical or technological. There's subtle difference between the two. But I was actually impressed when Professor Noel Fitzpatrick said that the biggest faculty actually is humanities and arts. Yeah. And this is the biggest faculty in Technological University. I think this is amazing, sir. Yeah. And I think the project that got this group together actually proved that people with different backgrounds can collaborate, can share their various viewpoints. As today's guests were representatives of different participants in the ecosystem, so they get a different perspective and a different angle of what is going on and how these different public bodies address the challenging issues, the challenges related to climate change, to digitalization, to inequality, all the challenges of modern society. So I would like to thank you all.